Hey everyone, Chris here. So we're getting very, very close to August 1st when I can start revealing details about the new Player's Handbook. Start expecting videos right on August 1st. But we got about a week to go, and my friend here, Colby from D4 Deep Dive. Hi, Colby.
Hey, how's it going, Chris? Hey,
Good.
everybody.
We both have advanced copies of the Player's Handbook. We both spent a lot of time going through it, and we have I think, gotten a pretty good idea of how things are going to work and what kind of things we will expect using these new rules. And I want to talk a little bit about some of our impressions of the book. I want to talk also with you, Colby, about what you're planning and what I'm planning in terms of
Mm,
builds moving forward
mm,
after the
yeah,
new Player's Handbook is released. Which rules are we planning to use? Why? And I have a few questions from patrons I thought we might dive into as well. I'm really interested to get your impressions on a lot of these things because, I was going through these questions and I had my own impressions and I kept thinking, I wonder what Colby's going to do. I wonder what
yeah,
Colby
yeah.
thinks about this. So I'm
Ditto.
looking forward to talking about that. So let's get into some questions. So this was a long discussion between Colby and I, and we've split it in two parts. So one part is here on my channel, and the other part is on Colby's channel. Check out the link in the video description to check out Colby's channel and the other part of our discussion after you're done watching this video. Thanks, everyone, and on to the discussion.
Okay, ready?
Okay?
Strongest class. One, two, three.
Wizard.
Sorcerer. Ooh, you're staying with wizard.
Yeah. Here's
Okay,
here's why I
let's hear
think
it.
the wizard is better than the sorcerer. Um, so the sorcerer got a lot of candy, and the wizard did
Hmm.
not get very much candy.
Hmm.
Um, and but the thing is that the wizards and sorcerers were not on an even playing field in
No,
2014. Wizards were a
no.
lot better than sorcerers, so sorcerers
Hmm.
needed a bigger pile of candy than the wizards. The assumption that a pile of candy for the sorcerers that the wizards didn't get makes sorcerers better, I think, is a mistake. So one of the things that's been mentioned is, well, sorcerers subclasses all get a big list of extra spells, and their base class is, at least according to the playtest, is getting extra spells as well. So they'll have more spells prepared than the wizard. Yes, they will have more spells prepared than the wizard, but they will not have more spells they can cast at any given time than the wizard, because the wizard can cast rituals as without preparing them. And
In
how
their
many
book. Yep.
rituals does the wizard want? Well, they want water breathing. They want Lehman's tiny hut. They want phantom steed. They want Rary's telepathic bond. They want find familiar. They want unseen servant. They want, and I can get far more than 10 on that list. So
Hmm.
wizards will have more spells that they can cast, and can they get them all in their spellbook? Yes, because every single wizard subclass has got 9 extra spells to put in their spellbook,
Yeah,
and
I love
and
that
those are
change.
going to be rituals. And when I talked about the martial caster divide earlier, what did I say? I said everything I could. Well, that's where the wizard is. That the wizard has got everything covered because of all the rituals as well as the spells. The sorcerer does not have that. The sorcerer doesn't even have access to a lot of the best ritual spells. In fact, they have almost no ritual spells on their whole list, so it doesn't matter that they can cast them ritually. Also, because they're casting ritually, that means more spell slots. Also, the wizard spell list is tremendously better than the sorcerer spell list. That's my opinion.
All right.
Yeah.
I think the reason I think sorcerer when I think of the new strongest class is because I tend to like my opinions on pretty much anything in D&D tend to be combat skewed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think about things in numbers and spreadsheets more than I guess I give sort of added weight right there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in that scenario, I just think sorcerers with their better hit chance with spells now, they get advantage on all, spell hit and a +1 to their DC,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then meta magic, with quicken spell, with now, okay, nope, I can't say that. Um, they changed metamagic a lot, is what I'll say. And
Well,
almost
we,
every
we, we saw
metamagic,
we saw in the playtest the
yes, yes,
meta magic
yes.
changes, and yeah, most
Almost
most
every
got boost.
metamagic got
Twin
buffed.
Twin got nerfed because Twin was
Yeah,
the most powerful, and Jeremy Crawford
yeah,
said, "Sorry, but Twin's getting nerfed because it's
yeah,
too powerful." So
yeah.
guess what? It got nerfed, which means the most powerful meta magic option for Sorcerer is weaker than it was before.
Yeah, yes. And everything else is better. Almost everything
Mm-hmm.
else,
Yep.
right? Their
Ceiling
spell list
lowered, floor raised.
their spell list got expanded.
A little bit. A
Um,
little bit.
I mean, depending on the subclass, you could argue that it got lowered depending on the subclass.
Well,
Um,
yeah. I mean, their base class list is bigger than it was.
yes,
It's just
yes.
not much bigger.
And so yeah, I think for me, kind of all of those things together, I would personally rather bring a sorcerer to the table, particularly in a combat encounter, than I would a wizard, even though there would be some spells that I would be like, oh, I wish I had that spell. But I still think, yeah, I mean, and that, yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
I want that higher DC and that advantage on every attack,
Well, yeah.
spell
You
attack.
you say advantage on spell attack. I go, who cares? Plus one DC. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah,
But it's plus one DC.
yeah,
And you know what? You have plus one DC. I have this spell and this spell and this spell that you know
mm,
are the best spells in the game, and you don't
yeah,
have them.
yeah. But I
And you can
can.
cast this spell with plus one DC, and all three of these spells kick that spell's ass.
Uh, well, I don't know. I think we're gonna have to agree to disagree here.
Yeah.
I mean, I can quicken spell and then still throw out a cantrip. Like, I don't know.
This
There's
spell
just
plus a cantrip plus one DC is still these any of these spells kick that
I don't
spell's butt.
know. I don't know.
Because these three spells were already the best spells in the game, and they didn't fix them.
Yeah,
And wizard
that's true.
and nobody and they didn't get added to anybody else's spell
Well,
lists.
I can take a sorcerer subclass and get one of those spells.
Yes, that is true.
Anyways, okay, but regardless, we're both in agreement that the most powerful class is still going to be a full caster.
Yeah.
Even though I will very rarely, if ever, build like a level 1 to 17 sorcerer or wizard for that matter.
Well, I have, and I will, though. I will say this too. Although I think Wizard's the most powerful, it's the one I'm least excited to play because I've done
Hmm,
the Wizard experience before, right?
yeah, and not a lot changed.
Yeah, and I also think Warlocks are at the table now.
Very much
If we're
so.
talking most
Very much so.
powerful,
Yep.
you said Sorcerer, I said Wizard, but if you had said Warlock, I would not have
No.
had a surprised expression on my face.
No, and the very first 2024 character build that I do that wasn't the Assassin Rogue reveal, anyways, is going to be a Warlock.
Hmm.
And because I started the channel with a Hexblade, video number one,
Well, Bard is at
and
the
it just
table too.
it
Bard
felt
is at the
poetic
table
to
too.
say, you know what? I'm gonna do another Warlock Gish for my first one. You're right. Definitely. Whether Gishes or just casters.
Because you talked about your
Um,
first build, and I just remembered the first character I'm actually going to play. I've got some friends. We're planning a campaign using the new rules
yeah,
that's going to start as soon as the player's handbook is released and they can get it. And I
yeah.
will be playing a one level paladin dip Valor Bard as far as I
Valor
can
Bard.
take it, and it's going to
Nice.
be pretty good, I think.
Yeah, it will. It really will.
Yeah.
I do think if I were a betting man that the Blade Singer that I'm going to be building before too long with 2024 rules um, might end up being more powerful than any other character I could come up with because I think that um, they're not in the 2024 player's handbook as an available subclass, but there's no reason why we couldn't still use them. as long as you can do that at your table, right? But there'll be a full wizard and all of the things that that means, but then also do even better damage than they used to be able to do, in particular because of this overpowered spell that I'm thinking of that eventually is just going to be and that spell is only available to a couple of classes, right? Um, that's going to be really, really, really good.
Yep. Okay. So builds. You present builds
Yeah.
on your channel. I present builds on my channel. We
Uh-huh.
know that number one, the rules for backgrounds in the player's handbook do not include the ability to customize your background, but we are
hmm
expecting rules in the Dungeon Master's Guide to do so with
hmm
the guidance of the DM. So it's not going to be just
Yes.
a solely
And
player option anymore. And
and Jeremy
secondly,
Crawford said that.
yeah, he has said that. Secondly, we have been told that this is a backwards compatible system.
Mhm.
With your builds, are you planning to use custom backgrounds, and are you planning to use older material?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
I think that I think that obviously we'll see when the DMG comes out. But to me, it's gonna be like I I I have to believe. I maybe this is just wishful optimistic thinking on my part, but that it will be as ubiquitous as other things that were optional in the past, like I don't know, custom lineage or variant human, right? Um, Without the ability to do that, I feel super hamstrung. Um, And so, yeah, I think I will. Now, I might change that, right? The DMG might come out and it might be like, "Oh, this is actually," or maybe maybe I poll my audience and say, "Hey, how many of you can actually use like, custom backgrounds at your table?" And if it's like 50-50 or worse, you know what I mean? I might be like, "Oh, all right, I got to rethink this then."
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my current plan. And yes, my current plan is to use old material. And I was actually looking for a question from one of my patrons asking about that. But before I get to it, what are you going to do?
No and no.
Really?
Yeah. Here's the thing. If I was to pull my patrons, maybe 50. It'd be 50-50. Maybe it'd be 80-20. If I use old material, I feel like I'm cutting some of them out.
Hmm.
I can tell you at the table I'm going to be playing at, we're not using anything before the new player's handbook.
Hmm.
Anything afterwards, we're going to use. I wouldn't be able to use your videos to
Hmm.
make builds anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
So I figured what I can do is when in my builds, I'll stick with the rules in the new player's handbook, and
Hmm.
I'll give some thoughts about what I might do if older stuff was available. But I mean, I kind of think it's redundant to say put elven accuracy on it. Yeah, you know
Hmm.
that. Put a hex
Yeah, sure.
strip on it. You know that. We've done
Yeah,
it a trillion times. You
yeah,
don't need me to tell you a trillion and one times that hexblade is good as a dip.
yeah.
It's to me, it's tired and old, and I'm into the new.
Yeah.
So I'm into making new builds with the new rules. And then if I notice that, boy, this old thing would work really well on here, if
Hmm.
it's not obvious, if it's not like, yeah, a hex dip would be good here, then I'll mention it. But
Yeah.
if it's you know uh, this is going to have advantage all the time, so elven accuracy would be good. You know that if you have elven accuracy available at your table, put it on there. You don't need me
Yeah.
to tell you to.
I think
I would
for
hope.
for me, I will say that while I do plan on bringing in old content at some point, it definitely won't be for a while because I'm most interested in like saying, okay, how does the World Tree Barbarian look compared to, other stuff? Could we make a great dance bard, right? And what would that look like? And yeah, how does the new Pact of the Blade Warlock compare to like your old,
Yeah,
Polearm Master, Great Weapon Master, Hexblade, right? Um, all of those kinds of things are questions that I'm most interested in answering. But I think also, um, I'm always curious that what motivated me to start this channel in the first place was this desire to answer the question like what does the math actually look like on this, and this, right? Everybody online is like, oh, the best build is this. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to build the best version of that I can and see what the numbers look like. And then I want to compare that to something else that I think might actually be better, but I don't see a lot of people talking about. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Oh, I'm right. Oh, I'm wrong. Whatever. And so that to me is really interesting. Like I want to know, um, I want to be able to answer those kinds of questions of like, okay, now what if we took your favorite subclass for me, Blade Singer, right? And could use that with the new 2024 rules. Not only, of course, everybody knows it's going to be good, but I want to get into the nitty gritty, right? And like, what do the numbers look like when you compare them based on, enemy armor class and saving throws or whatever, stuff like that. And I get a ton of requests. I've been getting a ton of requests for months now of people saying, "Hey, are you going to update this old build like for the with the new rules? Like I want to see that and I want to make that comparison." And I'm like, "Yeah, like that's interesting to me too." Whether or not I am revealing a ton of new information that's super exciting, to me, it's still interesting and exciting just to be able to sort of make a side by side comparison and go, oh, maybe there's something we can discover here that's actually better than we thought or worse than we thought or whatever. Okay, but yeah, I mean, and maybe this is redundant at this point, but one of my patrons asked, this was Ben Core, and I say patron, Discord user, YouTube channel member. What do you guys think about playing an old, non-updated subclass like the Genie Warlock or the Rune Knight Fighter, both my favorite subclasses for my favorite classes, with the 2024 rules? Will it work well? Will it feel balanced? Will it be easy to achieve? I hope that backwards compatibility is not just a marketing phrase. So this is maybe a little bit more to the point of like, will it work?
Yeah,
Um,
that is a very different question than are we planning
will we
to
do it?
play with it?
Yeah,
The reason I'm not playing with that stuff anymore is not because it won't work. I'm not playing with
yeah.
it because it's the toy I got last Christmas, and I want to play with the toy I got this Christmas.
And to be fair,
Yeah,
you play with that toy a lot.
yes, I do. I play a lot, and I am friggin' tired of
More than most of us, I think.
the some of the toys because everyone
Yeah.
plays with the same friggin' toys.
Yeah.
So I'm tired of Hexbite dips. I'm tired of
Sure.
peace dips. I am tired of elven accuracy. I am looking for builds that don't use them anymore. Right?
Yeah.
I'm glad to see the backside of Twilight Cleric. Um, and will Twilight Cleric work with the 2014 Player's Handbook? Absolutely. And so will
Yeah.
Rune Knight. And so will. I can only think of one subclass that doesn't work, and that's a Shepherd Druid. I did a video on that, and I gave some house rules that would make it work. And it will work with the new rules if you use that. But the old
Yeah.
rules, unfortunately, it's not compatible. However, I cannot think of another class or subclass that would not work, or spell
Yeah.
that's not in the player's handbook that wouldn't work. As far as I can see, there is some bridging language in the player's handbook
Hmm.
to tell
Hmm.
you the obvious things, like it's going to be in there, that it's going to say that you're going to get your first subclass feature at level 3 instead of at level 1 or 2
Right.
in some cases. It's there. It tells you what to do, and if you
Yeah.
follow it, almost everything, 99.9% of stuff that I can imagine is going to work flawlessly. Uh, and there is probably stuff I'm missing that won't.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. I
I've
don't see
been
it.
I've been a little surprised at some of the, comments and online chatter that I see of people saying, "Oh, like this is broken now. Like this isn't going to work. How are we going to make these things, compatible?" And to me, it's just like it feels really intuitive and a no-brainer. Now that maybe that's because I have the full player's handbook, but
I
I
don't know
thought
what.
that before.
Yeah, yeah. It's
It's like if you used to get your subclass at level 1, well, you get it at level 3 now.
yeah,
So all of those things, you just get those at level 3. And the base class gets some different things now at level 1 and level 2, and now you get those, and you didn't
And
used
did
to.
these people have the same hand wringing when Tashes came out? Oh, these optional class features won't possibly work with the classes.
Right.
No,
It's like
they work
they
fine.
do.
They work
They work
fine.
fine. Yeah.
If you want to keep playing with your old toys, you can keep playing with your old toys because they've been designed to work with the new toys.
See, I want to get my old Snake Eyes, but bring in the new Cobra Commander, and
I'm
have
tired of
them
Snake
fight.
Eyes. Everyone plays Snake Eyes every time I play. I've had nothing but Snake Eyes for 8 years now. I'm done with Snake
Oh,
Eyes. Snake Eyes is
and
worn out.
you play D&D more in a week than I play in a month. I guarantee it. So yeah, maybe more than a quarter, I bet. But yeah, I think the quick answer is yes.
It'll work.
Backwards compatibility, no
Absolutely.
worries.
And what you're going to have to do, and I think what will happen, is at every table that switches, there will be a conversation as to
Mhm.
what people want. At
Yeah,
the table I was am joining, I didn't even bring it up. The game master said, "What would you guys think of just using this player's handbook and everything forward?" And I was the last one to vote, and it was 100%. We don't
Hmm.
want anything before.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so, and I know for a fact lots of players are very concerned that they're not going to be able to use their stuff from before.
yeah.
The problem isn't the rules. The problem
Right.
is you might sit down at a table of 7 players and find that 6 of them don't want to use it.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
for
going to be
sure.
your problem.
Yeah, and so I mean, I think really quickly for those who are unsure, I think the basic rule of thumb is if you're using both old and new, if it's something that was updated by the new rules, then that's what you use.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't updated by the new rules, then
It
you can use
The
what
reality
existed.
is you don't even have to do that. If you want to play the old Gloomstalker, it works fine.
Sure,
It works fine.
sure.
I want that extra attack. Use the old Gloomstalker. They've told you you can. Jeremy
Yeah,
Crawford says that's fine. He said you can take stuff from the 2014 Player's Handbook and play it. If you want to play the old sharpshooter with the old hand crossbow, you
yeah.
can. You can do it in these rules. They've been designed
If
for you to do
everybody at
it.
your table agrees.
But the question is, do you want that? And
Yeah, yeah,
do the people at your table want that?
yeah.
That's the question.
Right.
And that is for not for me to answer or for Colby to answer. That's for you and your friends to answer.
Yeah, and so I guess I would just say,
But it works.
for my own builds going forward, that's going to be my rule of thumb,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm planning on using both, at least eventually. And when I do, yeah, if it was updated by something in a new
Yeah,
book, then
and
that's what I'm using.
that's going to be the hardest thing about doing builds because everyone's going to be different. Some people
Yeah.
are going to say 2014. You want to use the sharpshooter feat? Go for it. Go
Mhm.
use the old one. That's fine,
Yeah.
and it will work.
Hmm.
It's compatible. You'll have to keep track of who has new sharpshooter versus old sharpshooter,
Hmm. I
but
can't
but
imagine many tables
but it
doing
works.
that.
If it's
Yeah.
fun for you and your table, just know it's compatible.
Yeah.
And it's been made to be compatible. Now, Jeremy Crawford did say he figured you probably shouldn't mix and match. So though they have refined that statement since and said if you want to use a new subclass from 2014 with a new class, so I like the Necromancer from 2014 and I want to use it with the new Wizard, you can do that. But maybe not. I take this feat from 2024 and this feat from 2014 and this.
Right. 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 Right.
That's I think where they were saying that that's maybe a rabbit hole you don't want to go down.
Yeah.
Though I know a fellow YouTuber who's going to be probably have already released a video where he emailed to ask them about that very thing, and he seemed excited about his answer.
All right.
That was pack tactics.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah,
I'll bet it's pack
and so
tactics.
so I suspect they might have told him, yeah, go for it. We'll see,
Yeah.
we'll see. So
Well, he got
anything goes as long as it's compatible. It goes. It's just a matter of what. But of course, it's going to be harder for us as content creators because our audience right now is, tens of thousands of people, and they are not all going to be doing the same thing.
Right.
And so it is going to be hard for us not to exclude people. That's
Hmm.
why I'm only using new stuff, because I don't want to exclude anyone. Though if I do find, certainly with backgrounds, if it's clear that just everybody is customizing, because I think most people will. I think
Yeah.
most people will right from day one. I don't think we need the DMG. I think most people will say, you know what, if you want to customize background, go for it.
Yeah.
I bet. But
I
my
hope.
predictions are not always right. And I do want to wait until that's really clear before I go down that path. Because again, I just don't
Sure.
want somebody to see my build and go, "Oh, I'm not
Oh, I
allowed.
can't
I'm
use
not allowed
this.
that." Yeah, no, that's not going to
Yeah.
work. And if at least if I do only new, I know it works for everybody.
Okay. Hit me with one of your patrons' questions.
You bet. All right. I'd like to hear how Colby feels about the shift to third level subclasses and how it might impact multi-class builds. Um, like, we both like extensive multi-class, and I'm worried that we've rid ourselves of tired dips. We might also rid ourselves a lot of expressiveness if we can only viably straight class. What is your opinion on multi-classing going into the new rules?
That's a good one. I had a similar question from one of my users that I was thinking about asking. Is straight classing better than it used to be? So I do think that straight classing generally is stronger than it used to be, particularly for those where it was really bad before, like the barbarian, the monk. Um, I still think that multiclassing is very viable and very often, depending on what you're building for, will be even better. Um, it's going to be really hard for me, for example, to play a paladin, really to play any paladin that doesn't take a level one warlock tip. Because Pact of the Blade is so good and it's so much easier. Anyways,
Hexblade was always there.
yeah, I know, but at least now I feel like, well, I could do it. Well, actually, you don't even have a warlock subclass. You could just do like I'm just a warlock. And maybe I could, I don't know. I'm actually nervous about that. It's like, oof, this is going to be, if I am beholden to the spreadsheet, as I often say, in my builds, I'm going to have to just like put some artificial restraints on myself in the name of character concept or whatever, to avoid doing that too often. Anyways, yeah, I guess short answer is I think multiclassing will be great. It still will be great. I think that in the playtest game one shot that we did with Pack Tactics and with Insight Check, I think was a great example of both how going straight class is better than ever, and how depending on who you have at your table and what else is going on, in your game, like multiclassing is still really strong too.
I think multi-classing is still really strong. And
Yeah.
as I said, the first class I'm going to build is going to have a paladin dip, right? Because paladin
Hmm.
gets so much
Hmm.
at level one. You're going to
Hmm.
get heavy armor and shield proficiency. You're going to get weapon
Spells.
mastery. You get full spell casting. So I still think there will be dips. I still think there will be multi-classing because I want this spell on this character, and I can't get it through the class that I was mainly going through. Um, I don't think the shift in subclasses is going to make much difference in terms of multiclassing at all. I still think there'll be lots of one level dips and two level dips,
Hmm.
despite that, because honestly, all you're getting when you get your subclass is a feature,
Yeah.
and instead you're going to get a different feature,
Yeah.
right? Whether it's called a subclass feature or a class feature doesn't matter. It's just, do you
Yeah.
get a goodie? Yes, I do. Is it better or worse? Not really. It's about the same. Okay. Well, I
Yeah.
guess it's as good as it has ever been, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're playing a monk. Great. Do you want weapon masteries or not? Well, I mean, yeah, of course. Okay, one level fighter
Yeah.
or whatever. And you're not getting a fighter subclass. I mean, I always was taking fighter dips.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe
yeah.
that
Yeah.
won't
How many two
change.
level fighter dips have you taken, and you never got a
Right.
subclass?
Although now that you can't action surge and use the magic action, I think there'll be fewer, but there'll still be plenty.
Yeah, I think a lot of your builds would still be fine,
Hmm.
right? Because you weren't always casting a spell with that action surge
No, no. In fact, more often than not, it was to make
to make
attacks.
more attacks. Yeah, which you will still be able to do.
Yep.
I've got another question here. How would optional class features from Tasha's translate to the new player's handbook?
Mhm.
Some might have potentially interesting implications. Didn't look too deep. Did
Yeah.
you? So you're going to use old content. So you would
Mm.
be a good one to answer. Are you going to put
Yeah.
optional class features that are not in base classes on base classes?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I think I might change this, but I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna say no. And the reason is because to me, the optional class features from Tasha's were class features. Again, like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? My hunch was that most people used them, at least most people that watched my videos. I never, after Tasha's came out, I never built a ranger that didn't take, that didn't get canny and deft explorer, right? I never built a beastmaster that used the old beastmaster rules. So to me, that was almost like this is an update to the base, um, even though they were called optional. And so since they put out a new player's handbook that sometimes pulled those things over, like in the case of Steady Aim for the Rogue, but sometimes did not. To me, that's a fairly clear indication that Wizards is saying these are the things from Tasha's that are now official, and the rest is not,
yeah.
right? And so yeah, I think I'll leave them out.
I have nothing to add. I think that's exactly how I feel about it. They've taken a lot from those optional class features, thrown them in the base classes, and they've chosen to leave some out. And
Mhm.
I think we can take something from that.
Is there one or more subclasses that weren't added in the 2024 Player's Handbook that you or Chris think should have been or wish were, maybe? Like, say, Tempest Domain, he says. And what are your predictions of subclasses to be included in the first of everything expansion for 2024 rule set? We don't have to necessarily answer that one, but yeah, give me one or two subclasses that you would have loved to see
Well,
that we
you
didn't get.
mentioned Blade Singer. I think the Blade Singer would have
That's
been a
that's number
cool
one for
cool
me.
one to put in there. Then again, we have Blade Singer extra attack on both Eldritch Knight and Valor Bard. So we have
Hmm.
Blade
Hmm.
Singer in Spirit, I suppose.
Yes.
Um, let's see. There's a lot of subclasses I like. Like I wanted Swords Bard in there.
But then they gave you a better Valor Bard.
Yeah. My
So
favorite
it's
wizard is Order of Scribes. Again, the old toys I'm not that concerned about. When I look at the new player's
sure.
handbook, it's not the stuff that they brought from previous times and kept as is that I want to play. I don't want to play any of
Right.
those. I've already
Right.
played
Right.
them
Right.
all. I want to play the
Right.
stuff that either they made dramatic changes to, which I'm glad they didn't take scribes and like rip it apart, right?
Yeah.
Um, well, maybe I would have. It depends what they would have done with it, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I'm interested in subclasses that got major changes or are brand new. Those are the ones
Right.
I'm interested in most.
Right.
And like Valibard
Yeah.
got Blade Singer extra attack. Well, that opened up a whole bunch for Valibard,
Hmm.
didn't it?
Hmm.
So it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
So there's not a lot that I'm looking at in
Yeah.
the previous and going, oh, I wish. Yeah,
Yeah.
not really.
I'm a little bit the same way. When I first heard that they were going to do the Psy Knife and the Psy Warrior for the new player's handbook, I was like, oh, awesome. Like those are two of the coolest subclasses, right?
Mm-hmm.
That exist in the game right now. Like that's super cool. And then we got them and it was like,
They're
they're basically the
basically the
same.
same.
It's like that's not very exciting.
They did that
Um,
little fix that we all wanted on Soul Knife.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Although, well, yeah. Um, so yeah, it's like I would love to see Blade Singer in the player's handbook, and had they brought it over, they probably wouldn't have changed much because we got an update to it in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and most stuff that got ported over from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything didn't really change much, you know? So it's almost like I guess I kind of wish they would have not brought over the Clockwork Soul Sorcerer and the the Psy Warrior or whatever, and instead brought something else that
Older
maybe needed a
that needed a
facelift.
facelift. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Um.
maybe I would say like the Purple Dragon Knight fighter because that's garbage,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so give me an update
Or
to it.
Battlemaster Ranger, or not Battlemaster Ranger. I should say, what is it? Battle Ranger Barbarian.
Yes, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Battle Rager. Um, yeah, so maybe that's the way I would lean more. Is yeah, what did they not bring? And could they that really is kind of underpowered? Like I was gonna say Divine Soul Sorcerer, but it's like, well, Divine Soul Sorcerer is really good.
It
And
doesn't need a boost really.
yeah, exactly. So if you're gonna bring it over just to nerf it, then no thank you. Um,
Well, they did that, right? Like um, the Abjurer
yep,
and the Evoker.
yep.
So there were.
Well, okay. You th so to clarify, you're saying that the evoker's weaker now?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I believe so. There is a uh, trick that used to work that doesn't work anymore.
Okay. I'm not
Yeah,
thinking of the tricks. I'm just
it was a little optimization trick that no longer works.
I'm in love with the level 6 and level
The
3
switching,
feature swap.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I mean, at level 5, I won't like it.
Mm. Right.
Yeah,
But who was using who cared about sculpt spells at level
with
2
Thunderwave,
and
yeah, it's
3?
usually not a problem
Yeah.
with Thunderwave. Um, but
Um,
yeah, no. So there were classes that were brought and nerfed. Um,
sure.
yeah.
Mostly full casters, I think.
Though, if your group says you can use old content, you can just use the old Evoker and the old Abjurer. I like this one. What is the one where you had the they got this perfect moment while reading it, and what was the one you had the they didn't fix this moment while reading it?
Um,
And if we're going to go into stuff that's not revealed, I think we're okay to name out uh, generalities as long as we don't. Certainly with the got this perfect. Um, I with the they didn't fix this. I think we have to be careful, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the first thing that comes to mind with the they didn't fix this, um, for me, w- are certain spells that I think needed to be rebalanced that didn't get rebalanced.
Yep.
And I guess I probably can't name those.
I don't think we can name them. I don't think so. Um,
But
yeah.
let's just say like what I think are the most sort of ubiquitous and powerful spells, a lot of them didn't get rebalanced, and I think they needed to be.
Hmm.
Um, that's the biggest one for me. What about you?
Yeah. I would agree, but I'll pick a different one just because you already said that one. Another one that bothered me was there's something to do with spellcasting rules. Um, in fact, I'm gonna answer both parts of this question. There's one thing to do with spellcasting rules where I felt they got this perfect, and there's another part of the spellcasting rules where I'm like, I can't believe they didn't fix this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, as far as what I feel they got perfect, maybe again, like my initial like knee-jerk response is monks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'm so happy
Yeah.
with what they did with monks.
We should
Maybe
probably.
perfect is an overstatement, but
We haven't talked since the playtest. Um, are you still okay with them with the changes to Stunning Strike?
I wish that they would have kept the playtest version of the Stunning Strike, but it was weird. Like it was weird, like because not only because, and I think you mentioned this in your reveal video, not only was it narratively weird, like why did they failed and then took damage, like make that make sense to me. But maybe more than that for me, mechanically, there would have been plenty of times where you would be hoping that they would fail their save,
Hmm.
right? Like if you thought these guys are almost dead, they've only got a few hit points left, like please fail your save, and they succeed. Or I mean,
And
sorry,
darn it. Yeah,
dang it, they're stunned.
wait, I could dump my
So I said that wrong.
wisdom.
I said that wrong. Sorry. You'd be hoping that they would succeed on their saving
Yeah,
throw,
yeah,
right? Because you want to do damage,
that's right.
and they fail and they're stunned, and you'd be like, ah, dang. I just, it was weird, and so maybe damage wasn't the answer, but slowed and advantage on the next hit feels like it's something. It's better, but I would still take stunned until the end of their next turn because that's big, right? End of their next turn rather than beginning of your
Hmm.
next turn. Sorry, our next turn. End of our next turn versus beginning of our next turn. That's a big nerf to me. And uh, uh, being able to do it more than once per turn, I think I'm okay with that. But maybe leave it till the end of next turn and give me advantage on the next hit or something. Slowed is just, it's just, and outside of very specific scenarios, it's really anything.
Yeah,
So, anyways,
I'm agree that I'm not so big on the slowed. The advantage on the next attack might be okay. I think one thing that it does do is thematically, if we consider what stun does, the partial
yes.
effect is
Yeah.
part of stunned, right?
What about make them dazed?
They don't
Dazed
have
isn't a condition
they
anymore.
don't
I
have
know,
it
but
anymore.
but
Yeah.
but rogues can do it, right, with one of their cunning actions. So give them that same effect. I think it's like they can choose an action or a bonus action or a move, something like that. So
Hmm.
it's still better than being stunned, but it still feels like, oh, you kind of addled them a little, you know. I don't know. I think that would have been a better option. But other than that, and maybe what I mean, gosh, I wish they could have weapon masteries. For the most part, monks are in a really really good place, and it makes me super happy.
Yeah. I would agree. I would agree. And if I think back on our one shot, I did the full monk using
Hmm.
the
The
playtest rules,
elemental, yeah.
and it worked really well. And I don't remember the damage portion of a failed save on stunning strike having a real meaningful impact.
Sure. You're right. I do think that I'll probably be stunning striking even less, maybe, than I was before.
I don't
I
know. Yeah,
think.
maybe.
Depending on my level and how many key points I have, right? And depending on the enemy and what I think their con save
But
might
that's
be.
good. Yeah, I think part of that is because with the 2014 monk, stunning strike is far and away your best option,
Mm.
right? And they have given you better options
Yeah,
outside of stunning
yeah.
strike, so that comes into play as well. Rate for me out of 5 stars what you would give the new player's handbook.
4.5?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's quite a bit better than the
Yeah,
2014 version.
yeah,
I was thinking 4 to 4.5 as well. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I'm super excited. And I know there's a lot of naysayers out there that are like, oh, Wizards of the Coast, I'm never going to give them another penny.
Well, then
Well, and
don't.
I get it.
Yeah,
I get
don't.
it. But yeah, that's okay.
Hey, we're
Don't.
gonna have most of the content in that player's handbook on our channels, and you can get it for free.
That's right. I'm sure most of it will be on D&D Beyond.
Yeah, yep, and post it online somewhere. If you really don't
Yeah,
want to buy the player's handbook, but you still want to play it, you can. And if you don't want to play
yeah,
it, then play something else. That's fine.
yeah. But no, I think they did a great job, and I'm super excited for August 1.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, everyone.
Well, thanks everybody, and thanks Chris. I appreciate your time. This has been a lot of fun.
Well, thank you.
And yeah, let us know in the comments what we missed. What burning questions do you have
And we
that we
might
didn't
get to
get
some
to?
of them.
Yeah, we'll probably get to a very small amount, but maybe the rest of the community will get to them. Take care.
You too.